Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Back in the spring, we did a little series of cakes for two. And this carrot cake for two was one that I wanted to do back then, and for whatever reason I just never got around to it. And it's been on the schedule. It's something that I've wanted to do over and over and over again. Over the last few weeks, we have done a series on the chocolate mayonnaise cake. And during my research for that cake, I came across another bunch of cakes that use this method that I'm going to do here at the beginning, which is essentially making a very basic mayonnaise. Not really a true mayonnaise because there's no acid being added, no vinegar or lemon juice. But this emulsification of egg and oil together at the beginning in order to make a mayonnaise. Makes a much more tender cake and a cake that lasts or stays moist longer. And so I kept seeing recipes for things that were carrot cakes or carrot cake-like cakes. Of course, that ubiquitous cake that uses zucchini, zucchini bread, zucchini cake. And so I'm whisking the egg and slowly pouring in the oil just to emulsify the two together. And so I saw this method over and over again as I was doing that research. And then in the comments section, I had a couple of people say that when they were in culinary school in the 70s, that they were taught to always make their carrot cakes this way, especially when you're using an oil. If you're using butter, it's not going to work. But if you're using oil, just to use this method, emulsify the oil in the egg first. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do this carrot cake, let's use this method and see what happens. So I think I've got a pretty good emulsification of the egg and the oil. It's not as thick as what most people today would consider mayonnaise. That's because we didn't put that acid in. But that's really good. Okay, so I have some cinnamon and nutmeg. I'm going to put that in. And oops, got ahead of myself. That was cinnamon and allspice that I put in. This, of course, is nutmeg. So we'll grate in some nutmeg. Now, today, we think of mayonnaise as a savory condiment sauce that we usually use on sandwiches or as part of salad dressings or something like that. I came across a lot of recipes in the late 1920s, early 1930s, where there was sweet mayonnaise. And those were used for desserts. So that idea of the 1930s mayonnaise cake isn't that odd at all. Okay, so that's in. The rest of this is just a dump cake. You know, we're going to dump in white sugar and brown sugar. I'm using half and half, white and brown. You could use all white. You could use all brown if you desire. Really, it's up to you. And a little bit of vanilla. Whisk that in. And then I have flour and baking powder here. So I'm just going to quickly mix the flour and baking powder together just with my finger. You don't have to be too crazy about getting them mixed together. Okay, in goes the carrot. And I'm going to switch to a spatula at this point. Mix in the carrot. And then mix in the flour in 2 or 3 additions. And the last ingredient is some pecans. You don't have to put in pecans if you don't want to. You could put in walnuts, you could put in any nut, or you could leave the nuts out completely. Completely up to you whether you add them or not. So, I mean, there's a lot of leeway in any cake like this. I'm using carrot, but realistically, you could put in other root vegetables. I mean, you could put anything in there. You could go wild with that carrot component and use parsnips. You could use potato. You could use apple even. Because really what you've got going on here is a little spice cake that at some point in history someone has put carrots in to extend the cake. And it turned out that, you know, the carrots worked really well, so they kept doing it. But realistically, be fearless in the kitchen. Give it a try with something else. Okay. Oven's preheated 350 degrees. I'm going to stick this in, and then we'll come back and make the frosting. Okay, so in video time, it's been about 10 seconds since you saw me put a cake in the oven. That's not this cake. In real time, it's been about 3 weeks, and I'll tell you what happened. I misread my own recipe, and I put in about 2.5 times the amount of sugar into the cake that I should have put into the cake. I confused I was doing a bunch of different recipes all at once, and I confused a couple of different recipes and just kind of screwed it up like that. So what we ended up with, and you'll see Julie in another video laughing at it.
So while he does that, I'm going to put it, I don't know what happened here. There's a big hole.
That was an accident. I'm going to refilm that one.
That
was a bit of an accident. What we ended up with was a completely different cake. It was more of, I would call it a spiced carrot blondie. It had that texture of a blondie, if you've ever had a blondie. Completely different texture than a spiced carrot cake. Really good on its own, but it wasn't carrot cake. And there was no way that we could pretend that that's what it was on camera. So I remade it. I've also discovered that I really like spiced carrot blondies. And maybe at some point in the future, I'll sort of narrow that recipe down a little bit and make it into something that is repeatable and has an even better texture than what this cake had. So I've got butter and cream cheese, just making a plain standard vanilla butter and cream cheese icing for this cake. I'm going to put in a little bit of vanilla. I've got some icing sugar here. I'll put in a little at a time, and you've heard me say this before. The amount of icing sugar that you need is going to change from day to day, depending on the moisture content of your butter, the moisture content of your cream cheese, temperature, humidity, all of those things. So I just keep adding the sugar until I get the right consistency. Huh. Got it in the first shot. And just get the icing on any way you can. People are going to love it.
Well, hello, Glenn. Hello, friends.
Just a little piece. Just a little piece of carrot cake.
Just a little cake. Look at that. That's a lot more icing than usual. I appreciate that.
Okay. So, much better than the over-sugared attempt from
is that what this one is?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
You put all the sugar on top this time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Classic, moist carrot cake. I mean, there's nothing else to say.
No.
If you like carrot cake, if you like cream cheese frosting, this is the classic carrot cake flavor and cream cheese frosting. Really nice texture.
Not as chewy as the all-sugar version.
Yeah, the all-sugar one, I mean, it was a blondie. It was essentially a carrot blondie.
It was more like yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for stopping by. See you. Sorry. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.